Hallo iedereen, ik ben Karlijn. En dankjewel, Vruchtvlees. Het is heel leuk om hier te zijn en heel leuk om jullie te ontmoeten allemaal. I've been told to give this talk in English, so I'll try. Yeah, and I'm from VanMoof. I'm going to give a talk about us, what we do, and how we've got to where we are. But first you have to know one thing about me, and that's that I'm a person that takes comfort in structure. I like to plan. I don't like to start something without knowing what the outcome will be. But at VanMoof, they do things very differently. They do. It's the kind of place where no one pretends to have the answers to anything. We're just hacking away, trying new stuff, trying to get the next billion on bikes, which is a huge goal. And in the process, we're kind of getting there, but it's a messy process, and we fail often, and we fail fast. So this talk is going to be about the 5 hacks that we've done along the way that are getting us to that goal of the next billion on bikes. So the first thing, if you don't know us, we make bikes, city bikes. No mountain bikes, no cargo bikes, no Lycra, city bikes, because we believe that the fastest way to change the world is by getting people in cities on bikes. So I work with coders, with developers, with designers, with creatives, and we're constantly rethinking the ways in which the bike can work better in tomorrow's city. And in the process, we've stripped the bike of all the unnecessary stuff and added some tech. We've basically connected it to the internet. But before we arrived at a bike with an app, it all started with a challenge or a frustration. And that's how VanMoof started, which is our first hack. So 2 Dutch brothers, Ties and Taco, they figured that, okay, so if in tomorrow's cities the bike should be the best way to get from A to B, we got a lot of work to do, because people are riding crappy bikes. And sure, they get us from A to B, but it's not fun, and it sure ain't effortless. And most of all, when your bike breaks, we all know it's cheaper to just buy a new crappy bike than to fix your old one. So that's how the first VanMoof was born. It looked kind of like this. So it's very basic, Dutch design. It's what we call it now. It's just a prototype then. We integrated all this stuff like the lights and the lock. And what they did was they made the first prototype, made 100 of them, and threw them onto the market. Now, this is a crazy idea. And when I started at VanMoof, I kept hearing all these stories, and it sounds like chaos to me, and often it still is. But I've recently learned that in Silicon Valley, they even have a fancy word for it, and they call it design thinking. I don't know if Ties and Taco knew about this word back then. But what they did is they threw these bikes on the market, and very soon they found out what was supposed to be an indestructible bike that's affordable for everyone, $399, wasn't as indestructible as they hoped. So the solar-powered lights that were integrated and super fancy, turns out there wasn't enough sun in Holland, surprise, to make them shine. And the saddle they designed wasn't waterproof, so you get a wet butt. The chain cover was constantly breaking. And by the time they added up the cost of everything and took away the margins for the bike shops, they were losing money off every single bike they sold, which wasn't really good because they sold 5,000 bikes in that first year. So fast forward a couple of years, and we've managed to build a bike that's pretty indestructible, good quality, durable. It can withstand the weather. And we cut away the margins for the bike shops because we sell directly. And with that came a second problem, which is our second hack, shipping damage. So by now, people are buying our bikes all over the world. And as the US market was opening up, we saw shipping damage rise, and it was becoming such a problem. People are getting their bikes, and this is what it could look like, that they were sending them back. And now it was costing us money, and we're losing money off every bike again. So we tried all the ways of trying to solve the problem, different wrapping material, maybe a box in a box, so that if the outer box breaks, then at least the inner box would still be whole. Didn't work. Different shipping partners didn't work. Too expensive. Until one day Ties had a solution, a next thing to try, without knowing the outcome. He figured, obviously, that people in the shipping companies handling our bikes don't really love bikes as much as we do. Another surprise. But he did think, hey, maybe I'll think of what they do care about and stick a picture of that on the box. And it worked. So it's a 2-cent hack. That's the ink that it costs for the bike box. And it reduced shipping costs or shipping damages by 70%. I think it was just lucky. But what happened was one day, a Wall Street Journal journalist walked by our Brooklyn store, and he snapped a picture of the bike box, tweeted it, and the story exploded. But to be sure, this is not a PR stunt. We had no idea, and by the time all these journalists from all over the world were calling us, we were not prepared. We didn't have a statement. We didn't even have a proper photo. But it made the news, and that was good, of course, for us. It worked a little too well because the bike box were so convincing. 4 months later, someone burgled our whole storage in the US. So 200 bikes were stolen. I don't think they knew that they were stealing bikes, though. Yeah, so speaking of thieves, public enemy number 1 for us. I think one of the most important reasons we don't upgrade our bike is because, yeah, you don't want to buy an expensive bike and get it stolen. So this is something that over the years, VanMoof has been trying all these different ways to tackle bike theft, which is a big one. And that's where the internet comes in. So we not only have smart technology in our bikes, we have tracking technology too. So once your VanMoof is stolen, you report it in the app, and we can track where it is. And we even have bike hunters, another thing we're trying, who travel the world to find your stolen bike back. Now, if you're a business person or anyone with finance in their title, you'd be the first to tell Tisa Taco or anyone at VanMoof, this isn't a smart idea because we're employing all these bike hunters. We have 5 of them right now. We send them across Europe. We've even been as far as North Africa. What, to get a stolen bike back? But it's for the long run. What we're doing is 2 things. We want to get the story out there so that bike thieves know this bike is the last one you'll steal before you'll go to jail. And also the data is giving us a lot of information. We're getting insight in organized bike theft, which is a thing, I can tell you. So with that, we hope to pressure or help local authorities to, yeah, possibly make an end to this for once and for all. So enough about thieves and more about cities. Our fourth hack. So I said in the beginning, our goal is to get the next billion people on Earth on bikes. And that means you have to build a bike that's good enough for every city. And of course, in Holland, we have great cities, but they're still a bit small. And we know if we want to convince the whole world to get on bikes, we have to take a look at the biggest cities. So again, another project/challenge of ours. We took the biggest city in the world, Tokyo, and we designed a bike especially for the Tokyo commuter problems. So what we have is what we now call the electrified X. It's smaller, it's still smart, it's electric, so it'll get you across the city real fast. It has huge range, and it's light enough to throw over your shoulder up into your house. Again, we didn't do months or years of research as a proper company should. We just made a prototype and released it to the Japanese market in a pre-order to see if it'll work, because if it doesn't catch on, why spend all the money on the research? And it kind of worked, because we sold 500 bikes in the beginning of March is when we released it, in 8 weeks. So that means, okay, we're onto something, and now we're going to roll it out, hopefully, for the rest of the world. So the 5th hack I want to talk about is something even bigger than bikes, and that's ownership. So that's our next big rock at VanMoof, because if you want to get everyone on a bike, this is a thing that we all know is on the top of our list. So surveys over the years have shown if you ask someone, why don't you take the bike for your city A to B more often, they tell you, I'm afraid of theft. I'm worried for safety, if I can bike in my city or not. But then came along all these bike sharing that we've seen now in cities all around Europe, and all of a sudden everyone's on a bike. So maybe the problem isn't that you're worried about all those other things, but it's just a case that I want to use a bike, I just don't want to own it. And an expensive bike, our bikes are affordable to an electric bike that's 3,000 euros. You don't want to plunk that down up front. So yeah, our final hack is we're flipping our business model. And this is still a secret, so we can keep it in the room, I hope. We're finding a way to turn it into an ownership model. And again, this might be our next big fail where we lose a bunch of money, but we're going to try it anyway because we have that goal. So if you forget everything I said and remember only one thing of the past 10 minutes, I think it's that it's okay not to know how you're going to solve the problem, but that you should try, and you should fail fast, and you should fail often. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing a secret and giving us an insight in the way you try to find creative solutions for hobbels in de weg. I'm wondering, because on the one hand, I guess creative solutions or finding creative solutions is something that defines you at VanMoof. But on the other hand, you're growing really fast. So how are you going to save that creative mindset while also becoming professional?
I don't think we have a choice of risking it. It's so ingrained in the company. Ask me in 2 years.
Okay.
I don't know. I coming into VanMoof, I thought, okay, this is such a chaos. It's so they're lacking structure. I'm going to bring structure. But no, the company's got me. So it's the way, like the unstructured, the messy leadership. That's what's making VanMoof big.
So an ode to unstructured creative settings.
Yeah.
Okay.
I learned it the hard way.
Well, and you're still there, so that's a good thing. And because the last bike you equipped it or you packed it with tech, it's smartphone connected. Tomorrow your bike is smarter than today. Beside the last point, what is coming, or how do you want to make your bikes better? The next step.
Yeah, I really think that's the next hurdle.
Yeah.
Yeah, ownership. How to have it available to everyone.
So it isn't about extra tech. No, it's about making.
Well, we're not completely there with the tech. I think if our R&D officer would be here, give you a complete different answer because they're still working on improving the bike with crazy features.
Like?
I can't tell you much about that.
Just one secret.
It's going to be way smarter and a lot more fun, even than it is now. Yeah, but I think overall, the next hurdle is ownership.
So
we'll see. Time will tell.
Okay. Also, we will see each other again in 2 years then. Yeah,
Yes,
that's a deal for them too. Okay. A big applause for Karlijn.
Thank
you.